Psalm 51 verse 10 is our text today that David prayed. You know, it's a very familiar passage of scripture. And it simply says, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. It's a double blessing. He asks for God to bless him. It's a twin blessing. And it simply comes and he tells, and he asks the question, among all the Psalms that he starts talking about, it's moving and it's a perennial prayer psalm where we get, and he starts talking about, it's blotted with the tears and the anguish of David with a guilty heart. And he comes in and he asks God. I love this psalm because it comes back in that double blessing. The confession of his guilt is the first 6 verses. The prayer of divine renewal is from verses 7 to 12. And then he comes back and he talks about the reward of a restored fellowship in verses 13 through 19. Because if you're walking with God and if you get out of fellowship with him, you got to have a way to get back to him. Now, don't sit and act as if we've never had a problem and never fell out of fellowship with him, because we have. In other words, we have all sinned and, come on, help me, class, and fallen short of the glory of God. Now, we said we'd have some fun this summer, so you just tell me and help me preach a little while, because you've been doing it all summer. I teach you like a class this summer. That's our little joke this fall. We'll forget about it. So we come back and he comes and we're meditating and he's concentrating upon a double prayer, expressing a twin need. Now, sometimes we say, well, this is all I need. No, sir, no, sir. Anytime you pray one prayer, you need something else. And he comes and he asks, and he says to God, create in me. Did he say to somebody else? Create in who? In me. And he says, create in me, oh God. And then he comes and says, renew a right spirit within me. So he starts talking about the prayer is all about cleanliness of heart. He wants God to bless him, and he gives 2 requests. The one complementing the other. You can't have a clean heart without some clean hands. If you get a clean heart, you can have some clean hands. And so one complements the other. And then I love what he said when people are getting married. What do you say? And what God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. So if you have a clean heart, you're going to manifest a right spirit. If I have a clean heart, I'm going to manifest a right spirit. You can't have a right spirit toward God unless you have a clean heart. God alone can create a clean heart. You can't do it on your own. I don't care how much spirit you try to make up, you cannot do it. Taking the twin desires together, and one complements the other. The clean heart is inward. That's the work of grace. And what God does in me, it represents the root of holiness. Now, so he says, without holiness, come on, no man shall what? See the Lord. So we already know that. So he comes in and he tells us, and he suggests the right spirit is the outward work of God. He stands for what he does through me. And he suggests the fruit of holiness. So if I'm living for God, I ought to be bearing some fruit. You know what he did? When he passed by the fig tree and it was not bearing fruit, he cursed the what? Tree. So a clean heart is one all saints pray and long for. See, this is the sanctification of spirit. It's the sanctification of soul. And Paul describes it in Thessalonians 5:23. The clean heart is a necessary creation. He comes back and he talks about it. And he looks over there. But it's tragic when you look out here and you see what God is doing, and we can't look up at God. David found out what his problem was. David had messed up with Bathsheba and Uriah. And it's another thing to send a man out to be killed so you can have his wife. But the other thing is, David knew deep down inside of him that he had something that he didn't like. So what God had to do was dig way down and find out what was his trouble. Now, I know most of you say, I'm dressed up this morning. I got my Sunday best on. I got my hair fixed. I got my nails fixed. I got expensive shoes on. But deep down inside, you still got something God need to work on. Come on, somebody help me preach a little while. Wait a minute now. If my heart is right towards God and my spirit is not right towards you, then I still got a problem. Get up in here and do all this singing, do all this shouting, do all this praising, do all this worshiping, and walk out the doors and talk about somebody. Oh, you don't want to help me preach. I'll come over here and get this crowd over here to help me a little while. And then you come in here and say, I got a right heart, but my spirit's not right. Come on, help me. But if my heart is right, and it'll manifest itself with clean hands.